Hey everyone, welcome to the fifth episode of the 2 weeks to Jobless podcast. I'm very excited and honored to have Charis with us today. Charis, if you'd like to say a few words, introduce yourself, talk about what your industry that you've been in terms of like your last role and like where you are as well. That'd be great.
Cool. So, hi, I'm Charis Thomas, and I have been working as a product manager for a few years now, most recently in financial services, working for one of our major banks, and I am currently looking for work.
Okay, love that. Love that. Thank you so much for the introduction. We're going to jump straight into the questions. I'd just like to say thank you again for your time today. My first question for you, Charis, is tell me about your career progression.
Okay, this is always an interesting one because I've kind of gone from actress to accountant to business analyst to product manager. So, varied careers because, well, why not? So I started off as an accountant, as an actress. I was on things like Casualty and Bad Girls. So I was I had a very good opportunity there. I had a great time in that industry, but really decided I want a bit of stability. So then qualified as an ACCA accountant. So did the 14 papers, did the X amount, 3.5 hours exams per exam, and did that for quite a while. So became a management accountant, realized that actually I don't love this. So then started to merge in my love for systems and technology. So I became a
Mhm.
systems accountant, which was really lovely because it meant I got to sit between finance and all of our technology departments and manage all of the finance systems.
Okay.
And then kind of said, actually, do you know what? I'm just going to lean in the technology side because that's what I really enjoy. So then I got into being a business analyst, which is where you kind of scope what people need. So when they've got an idea, what exactly is that idea? What exact requirements do we have to elicit to
Mhm.
develop this thing? And then now been writing strategies and devising, coming up with the idea and the vision for those said products now, and um, helping companies ultimately make money, make a difference, which has been my last bit of fun for the past 3 to 5 years. Time goes really quickly, so I can never quite count. But yeah.
Wow, that is quite the career. I mean, that's incredible. The way you've progressed through so many different fields and like you've crossed over from you was doing something that's quite creatively driven into something that's a lot more logically driven. I mean, that is so cool. I love the sound of that.
What I would say in that experience of moving is I think sometimes we get really caught up in our jobs and what we're doing. And one of the things that I started to recognize was just very much kind of following your passion within a job. It's
Yeah.
like having a home. There's always no one, when some people like washing up. I don't like washing up. But it's a thing that I have to do because I do like a clean house, right? So you find your fun inside of that. And then I realized, oh, I really like doing, I love water and I love daydreaming. So that's my opportunity to have that little bit of 15 minutes of time away. So it's a bit like the job. I loved acting, but I realized I
Mhm.
didn't want to be an actress. It's just actually not where I want to be in that space. But I could take the creativity from acting to move me into accounting because you have to present in accounts. You have to be able to present back accounting stats to people. You have to be able to translate numbers to human beings. So you
Mhm.
can take the stuff you learn from that and move that over. Then, as I realized I didn't like the monotony of kind of accounting, I then could take away just the logic you have to deploy in order to be an efficient accountant. You could move that into technology now and say, well, actually, we're building requirements. What's the logic you deploy when getting to create to bring somebody's vision to life?
Yeah.
But now I get to marry in a bit more of my creativity because I'm working with a vision that somebody stipulated. And now I'm in the fun place of actually working. To me, product management is very creative, but it's like logical creativity
Mhm.
because you're creating this product based on a set of kind of a logical framework that you can then communicate and articulate to people as you get buy-in along that journey. So I think this whole job thing is very much for me a process of, I guess, finding yourself or finding your passions and giving that as of service to somebody else for the time frame that is necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I find so inspiring about everything you just said is that the moment that you're like, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to be doing this, you started to think ahead of what would be the next thing. What would I be doing? What would that look like? What would fulfill me? And job satisfaction is so important in any role. So the fact that you've proactively said, you know what, I've got these skills, I'm in this industry, but I think I could do this. Okay, I've got these skills, I've tried this, I think I can do this. You made it happen. You're a go-getter. Like that's truly inspiring. I don't know if
Well, it's
like me saying that back to you, like like did you ever think about it in that kind of context that you actually put yourself where you believe you should be?
until you said it, no, because everything is very much around. I guess so. These things homogenize out of your character, right? I am that person. I am the person. Like I wrote to ACCA when I was 15. Like, okay, if I ever want to be an accountant, what do I have to do? Just so I knew that I had the option. Um, but no, I think these things are serendipitous, and this is very much the first time I am job hunting and not in a job. So I have always kind of looked to the next thing, and I think it's all about very much trying to make sure I know myself,
Yeah.
because I think we are very privileged to live in the West. We live in Britain where we have opportunities where if we don't work, in some instances, you can get support in ways that you can't in other parts of the world. My family from the Caribbean, that support isn't there.
Mm.
So in which case, when I'm at work, I want to give my all, because if not, I'm wasting my life. Like life is a bit of a gift. So if I'm there, I want to give my all. And if I'm no longer in love with the principles of what I'm doing, then it's not fair on me or the company. So then I have to
Mm.
start actively looking to make sure that I am passionate wherever I am, whilst doing the best that I can do where I am for that time frame. But I have to be looking towards what's going to make me happy, so that I can always be of service, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, I just find that all very inspirational because sometimes people feel like because they've been doing this for X amount of time, this is what they will be doing in the future, or because they've been in this industry for X amount of time, or this is what they know, they're going to stay in that industry where you have this willpower, this fire that says, well, actually, am I doing um, a good service to myself by staying in this role, by being in this role? Am I doing a good service to the company that I'm employed by staying in this role? And like you think about it on a much more deeper subconscious level, I think, from like just from what you've just said, like it's a lot deeper than like how a lot of people may perceive like what their career progression would look like or what their career um history has been. So yeah, I think that's amazing. I just wanted to really highlight that.
thank you.
So cool. All right. So I know you briefly touched on it, but how did you get into this situation where you are job hunting without a job?
So interestingly, so I have two small boys. Well, they're smallish now. Um, and I find being busy with work, you don't always get to really watch them grow as much as you'd like to. And you can have you get your week off and you have summer holidays where you take a week or 2 days off. But I really wanted the chance to just exist with them for a period of time. So I took a contract role. Um, in the financial services. And this is a logical time to break, right? It's Christmas period. So I finished my project, and I really wanted to just take a minute to just exist in their space without it being rushed, without there being an objective, with just like, okay, mom is not actually working. I can pick you up from school, spend all the time. Like the morning isn't like this militant rush. The morning is now just a little bit more calm and laissez-faire in our approach, because you still get to school early, but I don't have the added pressure of actually rushing to deliver on my job, you know. So it's just I wanted to be in that space. So it is risky. This is another one of those. I'm going to do what I feel is best, but equally, I felt like this is a time to take all the skills that I've learned and to see what's next, because I think sometimes, particularly for me, when you this point in product management, it's very everyone always asks the question, what industry do you love? And I'm in financial services is fantastic. I was an accountant, so it's very logical for me. but equally, I want to really hone my skills. And I think
Mm,
one of the ways you do that is by putting yourselves in position. So I putting yourself in a position to do your job outside of its natural environment. So outside of financial services. And even recently, where a friend of mine has a service where she teaches parents. And she
mhm,
said, right, I've done this song and I need, someone wants me to do a video, but I've got no ideas. I was like, oh, okay, let's sit down. And I literally deployed all of my product management skills, i.e., what's your key objectives? She told me three key objectives. I was like, okay, I'll come up with a vision. I presented back this vision to her. Okay, I need a team. So she got me a videographer. She got me an editor. I was like, okay, well, let's do this. I created a schedule. All of the things that I would do between product and project management, I've now been able to use them in another walk of life. And I
mm,
guess the thing that I really wanted to challenge myself is, okay, I have these random skills from all these different walks of life. What next? So
mm.
that's where I'm at. It's like I'm at the what next phase, what job, what industry, what career, where do we go? So
I mean, that's a huge point to be at because it sounds like it isn't too pressurized in the sense that you know confidently you have the ability to do whatever you put your mind to.
it's pressurized because, like everybody, I got bills to pay. So there's
Okay.
pressure. There's real pressure. We're not out here like just no, no, I'm not retired anyway. Um, but equally, I think one of the things that I've learned over these really over recent years, and even in being in this position, is uh, whilst I operate well out of stress and pressure, I think you need to give yourself grace. You need to be able to look at the positives of your journey and your experience. I went through a mental decision a few years ago of divorcing myself from my job. Now, what that means for me was I am not, the job doesn't make me. So being an accountant doesn't define who I am. Being a product manager doesn't define who I am. I'm Charis Thomas. That's who I am. And that's an eclectic amount of skills that I've developed in and outside of workplaces. And I will bring that to any space that I'm in. So that I can trust. How that, like, I don't know what's going to happen next in this journey. I'm scared just like anyone else, but I am from a family of hard workers. So, I don't mind stacking shelves. That's how I started my career, to be honest. I acted before I stacked shelves, but I have stacked shelves alongside acting. So I'm humble. Put me where you need me and I'll give my all. But equally, I think it's important to be in a space that's best for you.
Yeah, yeah.
My
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. And yeah, like what you're saying is so relevant, so important because it shows that, yeah, like even with the confidence you do have, like you said, you've got commitments, you've got bills, you've got outgoings that these are things that you have to deal with month in, week in, day in, and so forth. You said you've also got little boys as well, and I really liked where you touched on the fact that you said, you know what, I want to go into a contract role so I can give them more time. Um, One thing that I'm always kind of I wouldn't say preaching, but one thing that I'm always encouraging, um, alongside what you said, which that was just like music to my ears, is that your job does not define you. Like you've been an accountant, it doesn't define you. Product manager, it doesn't define you. These are skills that you know wherever you go, this is what you bring with you. You're more than that. And like I love that. I think the other thing that was like really that I'm always encouraging people to think about is time is the most valuable currency that we all have that we choose to spend differently. And we live in this kind of society where the majority of us are programmed to believe that our time is worth X amount a year or X amount a month and or X amount an hour. And that's not that's not a true um equivalent of our time. Our time is much more than that. So when you said you are going to take a contract role and that's going to enable you to spend more time with your little boys, like I felt that. I felt that. Like that was deep, you know. So yeah, like I just there's a few things that you said that just really resonates with me so much. And like I just want to highlight them because I think that's truly amazing in itself.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Okay, let me move on to the next question. So, again, you briefly touched on it, but I'm going to ask it outright. So, how long have you been job hunting?
Um, if I'm honest, for like maybe about 4 weeks, 3 weeks.
Mhm.
So not long. So yeah.
Okay, okay. That's fair enough. And um, the next question I have you had any support, maybe from friends or family?
I am very, very, very blessed and privileged to have an amazing family and an amazing set of friends. So yes, um, when I was first, when it first finished, my contract first ended, and it was a bit like, okay, what now? I just stuck my head in the sand, like many people do, and for a minute you take it all personally, and you're like your confidence gets a bit challenged, and not even your confidence. I guess there's a level of ego for some people, and from we can all be honest about that and say, well, actually, is this a me thing? Did I make the right decision? And that's what I say about ego and confidence of like, did I do the right move? Should I be out of work? I've never been out of work in X amount of years. And then I had to remind myself this was a choice, and this was what I wanted. Um, and then I've my amazing friends, like they were like, Charis, just jump on LinkedIn, do the post, tell people you're looking for work, which I was nervous about. So anybody who's nervous about it, just know I had a call from a friend of mine who was made redundant. And he said to me, Sharice, just let you know that I put a post out and I've got a job. And he had been out of work for months. So he had been out of work for absolute months. And then he did the post. And then within a month, he got a job. And he said, I wish I'd done it sooner. It was silly of me. So things like that, suggestions like that, instantly, I was like, okay, let me do that. And then you realize your wonderful network, people you haven't spoken to in months or even years in some instances, will reach out to you and say, hey, like, look here, I think there's a job you can do great. Like people will advocate for you that you didn't expect them to. So yeah, you get reminded that you're not on your own and that there's nothing about you that has put you in this position and that this is life and that this is not the 1980s or the 1970s where people stuck in a job for 30 or 40 years. This is 2023. We change jobs, we change careers. Like reach out to people that you've met along the way. And I have, and people have been fantastic. And even networks I'm in, like Women in Product, which I hadn't even thought about. It's just a network of women that I'm, read about product stuff in, and I'm on their WhatsApp group. They're like, yeah, there's jobs. Go to this WhatsApp group. There's more jobs over here. So yeah, there is a network, but you have to ask for it, and you have to be humble enough to speak to them and be open about where you are. Is what I've learned.
Yeah, I love that. There were so many different angles you brought with your answer there. I'm taking a moment to still process it, but just to kind of highlight some of the moments that I was smiling throughout most of your answer. I can't even lie, but some of the like moments that I really wanted to highlight was when you was talking about you spoke about it earlier before I asked the question actually about how you come from a family of hard workers. So when you went on to talk about you have an amazing family, you've got a family that work hard and have been supportive, like that's incredible. Um, I love that. I know sometimes people don't have as much support when they're in the situation where they're job hunting. So to hear that you do have that again, like I couldn't stop smiling. I think my face would have been dead giveaway. Um, and then when you went on to talk about you have your friends who are supportive as well, but then people that you worked with that you did not expect to advocate for you on your behalf, that speaks volumes about your work ethic. You as a person that is in a profession, whichever profession that is, when you have people who will advocate for you that you didn't even expect to advocate on your behalf, it speaks volumes. Like I just thought that is so amazing. So yeah, like again, I couldn't stop smiling when you said that because it took you by surprise as well. Like, you have people in your network that you haven't spoken to in years because you just haven't worked with them or you just haven't crossed paths with them. To know that they would say, "Oh, well, check here," or I'll put a recommendation in for you. And then also the other community that you're part of, women in products as well. Like, love it. Like, there was so much for me to smile about. So I felt like my cheeks probably started. I think my cheeks were hurt at one point, but I was just like really happy to hear about all of this amazing support that you've got from your support network. So yeah, yeah, I think that's amazing. I just really wanted to speak about some of those things that that were really notable to me. Um, okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next question. How fair have job application processes been? And do you have an example of either a good or bad process you have been a part of?
So how fair have they been? Do you know it's a really difficult one for me to answer because I just kind of don't analyze things from that perspective. I mean, people ask me often, like they will ask me questions. Some of the applications, not all, some applications ask the question of what's your gender, what's your ethnicity. I don't really like to answer those. However, I say this because I also think about really big business where, you know, they have been advised that, there's institutional racism, there's gender bias, and that they're not doing enough. So part of me says, well, how do they measure their improvements if they don't ask the question? So I do think about it from that perspective. So there are some instances where I think, well, actually, you probably need to know because you need to know if you're reaching the application base to get even who you accept. You need to know whether your funnel includes the right people. So sometimes I do, but often I'm like, that's a bit of a random and unnecessary question to ask me so upfront, personal. Um, in terms of the application for process, I'll be so honest. I don't have an answer for this because I really focus on opportunities and positives. I really do because what I found in my life is sometimes you can focus. When you're in work is not fair, life is not fair. That's a reality. So sometimes you're looking in positions and you're like, that's not fair. What's going on over here? Actually, it's distracting me from the opportunity that was over there. Do you know what I mean? Like I've sometimes been in
Mm,
places where you haven't been like you're not highest paid in your peer group. Actually, you've got the best opportunities in your peer group. Actually, you're the one that's being mentored by the person who hands down has got the most experience or is most willing to share their experience with you. That's
mm,
probably a greater asset than the financial remuneration you might get in that temporary moment because that's going to benefit you long term. So there's all these things that sometimes we don't look at and we don't account for because we're so focused on the kind of the unfairness and the bias that we see. So in application process, I can't say I've seen anything. If they don't want you, they just don't reply, right? So that's what I have seen. So therefore, I wouldn't know what's the basis for that
mm.
for that response.
Okay, okay. Love the honesty around that. And yeah, your perspective as well. I thought that was a different perspective that it's my first time coming across it, and it being spoken about in that sense. So it was good to kind of hear your perspective on like how you've experienced job application processes. So yeah, I think overall, like yeah, that was good to hear. Um, in that sense. Yeah, I'm going to move on to the next question. Um, what is your biggest concern around job hunting?
That won't work again. Like I've got bills to pay. So my
Yeah.
genuinely like my natural biggest concern is that I'll be out of work indefinitely and I like don't know how we'll pay all the bills and I'll juggle my family life. But
Mm.
that's the fear. But I'm like I say, I really try to stay hopeful and stay humble. So it might mean you need to transition, take a step backwards, take steps forward, and you know, let's see.
Okay, okay, love that, love that. Very, very honest, very transparent as well. So, um, cool. All right. Well, we've gone through the main segment of the podcast where I've asked the hard-hitting, transparent questions. Now, I'm going to just give a little bit of context. So I'm planning to run, I think it's going to be in the next couple of weeks now because we're at the end of the year. But in the next upcoming weeks, I'm planning to run like a little competition where I've asked every guest that's featured on the podcast to put forward a motivational mantra that they'll print on a t-shirt. So just for context, it would be similar to this one where it says 2 weeks to jobless and every day is a blessing. So whoever's motivational mantra gets voted the most is going to win a t-shirt, a free t-shirt printed with their motivational mantra. So my final question that I have for you is
Mhm.
what motivational mantra would you print on a t-shirt?
Okay. I was cheekily like just checking. my book because I thought of this when you did briefly brief me on this. So I had a very brief moment to think about it. Um, I would go with this is a quote by this poet called Nikki Barnes, and it says something like, "It all starts with the light inside." That's what I would go with. It all starts with the light inside.
I love that. So true as well. That's a good one. That's a really good one, you know. Hmm. Wow. Yeah, it really does, you know. That's a deep one.
Yeah, like we're just like we're all part of a cog, but if you don't shine your light, how are you gonna? How's the cog move? So that's
Amen
a
to
really
that.
bad analogy. I'm the queen of bad analogies, but hey, you got
I mean, I think I could probably be a lot worse when it
it.
comes to analogies. But I just wanted to say, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. Thank you for being transparent and coming to contribute your experiences, your wisdom. You have a very inspirational career. So I've loved hearing every minute of it. And yeah, don't be a stranger. Do keep in touch. And if there's anything that I can do to help, please feel free to like reach out, and I'll do what I can from my side. So yeah, I'm just really grateful for your time and I'm honored to have you as a guest, my fifth guest. So yeah.
Lovely. No, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you reaching out. And if you hear of any product management roles, let me know.
Oh yes, I definitely will. Well, we've come to the end of the podcast. Just want to say thanks again. Thank you, Charis, and yeah, take care.
Cool. All the best. Thank you so much. Take care.